another tutorial video. So for today's tutorial, I'm actually going to show you 5 different cards. We're going to stick them all together, and they're actually using trapeziums. I think they're actually technically isosceles trapeziums that you're getting in this month's showcase die set. So the main showcase die set, which is showcase number 34, which is the buzzing beehive house, it creates these gorgeous beehives and a lovely little house. You can do them 2 or 3 stories, or even just 1 story if you wanted to, and have the roof on the top. There will be an up close video for this die set as well, which should have gone up yesterday by the time you're watching this video. And in that video I also show how I turned this into a windmill too, and I was also thinking a lighthouse might work as well. But the point of this tutorial is to show you how you can use basic shapes from different 3-dimensional die sets to create different patterns. So in this particular die set, because it has 3 different tiers, you actually end up having 3 trapeziums that are the same height but different lengths for each different tier of this beehive kind of design. So I thought it'd be quite nice to show you 5 different patterns that you can create with these isosceles trapeziums. But don't just think you have to use trapeziums to do this. Do have a look through any of your other 3-dimensional die sets that you have. There might be a weird kind of shape, maybe even a shape that has an angle at one end but's flat on the other end. Maybe even like a rounded sort of rectangular oval kind of shape. Maybe just long rectangles, possibly from like the side of the Halloween coffin that they brought out, or the casket. That definitely had longer kind of sides to it. There's tons of different panels that have been out in all sorts of different Tonic die sets, but I just thought this might be quite a nice sort of pattern building tutorial kind of video for you. And I am actually just showing you with plain size trapeziums. You can see the 3 different sizes here in the 3 different colours, but you have a different pattern for each of them as well. And if you were using the smaller shapes, you could take the patterns from some of the larger shapes and put them in the smaller shapes if you wanted to as well. So you can definitely mix and match these, add different patterns onto them, stamp on them, have stenciled onto stuff before you die cut it. Maybe you've got a bunch of jelly printing that you've done, or just scrap papers in your scrap box. Go through and like pick out different patterns to use for these kind of pieces. So let's move the die set off to the side, and then let's have a look at the different patterns that I'm sort of planning. So we'll go with the easiest kind of pattern first. So you're getting a sneak peek of all the different ones as I'm moving them across. But I've got 2 of like the easiest kind of patterns that I would say. So these are the 3 sizes of trapezium. The green one is the largest. The red one is the middle-sized, and then the pink one is the smallest. So you can see how you can get a stacked effect with these, which I'm going to show you on another card. But you can also play around with just the same sized pieces as well. We'll come into using multiple different sizes on mostly on one card, slightly on another one of the cards. But this one, I was just thinking how you can put them back to back. So if you use the same sized ones, you can put them back to back and they'll be the same size that way. Or if you were going up in size, the next one up in size would be the same size as the top of the previous one as well. But just building a pattern like this, and you can change up the style of this pattern by maybe switching around the colour order, adding in all sorts of different colours. You can move some of them off the card, so you would cut them. You could put some close together. You can raise some of them up on different dimension as well, or you could even, instead of just doing it down the side of the card, you could bring it more across. So those pink and red ones are right in the middle, and then these ones go back to being right at the other side of the card as well. And you could bring more of an overall kind of pattern to your card too. So that's a fairly simple kind of idea, which could definitely be built upon, and you could definitely use these to create different angles on your cards as well. Maybe instead of doing it quite so simply as that, maybe you could create some sort of kind of almost like a chevron kind of design, but with a shallower kind of point to it as well. You could definitely do this kind of pattern with just something really simple like this as well. This is just mainly building up a repetitive kind of pattern with these ones, but I think it's really nice to have a couple of different colours, and it's quite nice having the light and dark of each other as well. You could trim off the excess bits, bring them in further down the cards if you want to, move some of them so that they're like right over to one side, and then this one's right over to the other side, and create a slightly different pattern that way as well. So that's just showing you how you can definitely just keep the same size, move them all around a little bit to create different kind of designs. Or this one I really like the idea of, having 5 different coloured ones and using that one edge of them to line up against the bottom of your card panel, but having that jagged edge at the top of each of them, so it kind of looks like a leaning stack of something, or just sort of like a quirky modern way of doing strips of cardstock on your project as well. And this could be rotated to be this way up. You could have them coming in a downward motion as well. You could have your sentiment following one of these. You could have little stamped characters following one of these as well. So lots of different ways of doing this kind of one. I think with these simpler ones, I might not show you sticking them down. I'll finish all of the cards off and come back at the end and show you them. But I feel like if I just focus on the last one, I think that's going to be the most tricky for sticking down because we're overlapping lots of them. But there's so many different ways that you could use all of these, and you could come right up to the edge of the card maybe with these ones. I think that looks quite nice. So if we decide that one will look like this when I finish it off later, I might even bring like an extra white strip of card across here as well and maybe add a stamped sentiment on. Then let's go back to this one for a second and just completely decide how we want this one to look. We could even do some kind of design where they interlock or like join up to each other like this. That might be quite a cool way of using them as well. I didn't think of that before. Just sort of building them together like this to create some wacky random sort of geometric looking design. We could do something like that. Maybe those two are too close together. Maybe bringing in another red one perhaps. I've still got this red one off to the side. We could have the red one coming down there maybe. You could even bring in an extra one from the side as if it's coming in from a different angle as well. That even almost makes like a letter G too. If you did take those ones away, it's kind of like a G. So I quite like that as a different design too. It gives a really different sort of effect for a background. So I'm going to keep that one for later because I quite like that random idea. Then this one is using the actual different sizes of the trapeziums together. That was mixing in a couple of different sizes because I pinched a couple of different ones, but this one is using that tapered design, and I thought for this one it would be really lovely if you centered the design. Because we've only got 3 of each of them, you could technically put a third one up there, move them all down a little bit, but then you'd have the 6 kind of elements. It's quite nice to have that odd number. So if you do like odd numbers like I do with different elements on a card, then I think 5 of these would look really nice just like this, and possibly using different heights of 3D foam to sort of build them up. And again, don't forget I'm just using solid colours here, but any pattern papers that you have, anything that you've created yourself, maybe you're not that keen on it, but maybe die cutting into it would give it a different kind of look. What about all of your embossing folders that you've got? You could easily take different panels of these, run them through an embossing folder, bring out your Nuvo embellishment mousse, pick up that detail from them as well. You can do stamping on them, you could just have word stamps on them, you can use any of your little stamp clubs and have little characters poking out from behind these different elements as well. I'm just kind of showing you the basis of how you can build off of just these really simple ideas, but actually create a lot more by picking out scraps and bits and pieces from your stash as well. So I'm definitely going to stick that one down like that because I really like that. Possibly like a large scripty sentiment going across the middle of this would look really nice because that's a really simple background. Maybe a large script sentiment would look lovely on that, so I might give that one a go. Then this one I think we will stick down together because I have a feeling we're going to sort of lay these out in kind of almost like a plank kind of look, but instead of them having straight ends, we've got that angled end to them. So I think this one would be nice for sticking down. So let's get some glue here ready. So I think I'm going to go with a diagonal strip of the red and the pink together. And I've already cut one of the pink ones in half because I have a feeling I want it to sort of overhang off the end of the card as well when I repeat the red and the pink panel. But I'm thinking something like this, and I quite like it when one element actually meets that actual corner. So I'm going to start with that red one, and I know I've only got to stick this bottom little piece here. So you know, sometimes when I use scraps of cardstock, sorry, this is a really old glue, it's getting a bit bunged up, but you know, sometimes I use scraps of cardstock to create different backgrounds, and I stick them down with the double-sided adhesive sheets, because sometimes it's easier to line up all the different bits and pieces, or maybe you want to put glitter in between different bits and pieces as well, and having that double-sided sheet is much easier. If you are just wanting to use up a lot of different scraps, I know sometimes double-sided sheets can be more on the expensive side, and you don't really want to, you know, waste them for sort of scrap busting kind of cards. You maybe want to save them for really pretty specific projects or something. This is quite a nice kind of idea of how you can sort of build up a background, but without having to use one of those adhesive sheets to stick everything down, because these are such large block kind of shapes. They work really nicely for just using your generic glue, not even with a fine tip nozzle on it as well. Or you could use your tape runner. I think this would be really great for adding adhesive on the back of the panels. For my windmill version that I showed in yesterday's up close video for this showcase, I was actually using my Nuvo tape pen to stick these panels on, because I'd cut them out of mirror card and I didn't want the glue to buckle it and show through, and I was being lazy and didn't want to put little bits of double-sided tape on every single piece. So the tape pen is also fantastic for placing all of these different pieces down. So for the next row, I'm going to bring in some turquoise and blue kind of colours, and I'm going to go for kind of like a wooden plank flooring sort of look instead of a brick effect. A brick effect would probably be more like going exactly halfway to that pink one, but I quite like the offset kind of look, so I'm not going to go quite halfway down the pink one. I'm going to go more of like 1/3 of the way, and then place this blue one on. And then I've also got the darker teal kind of blue as well, and we can place this one on. I'm just eyeballing as well to kind of leave an even white border around everything, but if you did want to use your double-sided adhesive sheets, you could leave these borders and then come back in with some glitter, and then you'd have like glittered grout lines, it would kind of look like, which would look really lovely. Then the next level down, I think, which way round do we want to do this? Maybe this way. We're going to get a tiny bit more of the pink showing if we do it this way. I feel like I want a little bit of pink on both sides of this, so that's why I've cut this one in half, and I think we'll just put this red one right in the centre, and then we'll just have tiny slivers of pink on either side of this red one. You could easily work on a larger piece of card than you want to as well. If you had cut a bunch of these from all of your different scraps, you could just cover like a whole A4 sheet in a whole pattern like this, and then randomly chop it up into your panel sizes, and then you'd get a really serendipitous kind of pattern on all of your different pieces as well. I think that would look fantastic. Okay. So now we've got the first 3 rows into position. It kind of feels like there's too much of the red and pink. We need some more of the blue back in, but you haven't got any more die cuts cut out. So you can easily flip this over, trim off those excess pieces, and then we can use those 2 turquoise pieces just to create a partial kind of extra border like we just did with those tiny little pink pieces as well. And we can make the join, make sure you're using the nice die cut edge to be where the join is on the card, but you can make this join fit perfectly where you want it to be. And if we, see, we're going to have to maybe fiddle around with this. I wanted the colours to be the opposite way round to these, but I don't think that's going to be possible from the way they've been cut off of the background. So we'll have to go with the teal on the same side, and then this one on the other side, but I think that still looks really nice though. And actually we can do the same thing, try and get one of these panels right on that corner. I don't know why I really like that look, but I do really like it when you can manage to get a panel or a scrap to perfectly line up with that corner. Maybe it just sort of gives more purpose to the pattern, perhaps. But we can stick that one on there, and then use the other side of the dark turquoise one just to finish that off as well. And if you did want to come back in and add some glitter to this to make it look a little bit more extra special, rather than just using these block colours, unless you had been using scraps that were all pretty, if you had gone for more block colours, you could come back in with glitter perhaps. Maybe run a couple of strips of double-sided tape, maybe like a 6mm and a 3mm, and just put some clear sparkly glitter on there. Or maybe bring in the turquoise colours. Maybe you've got a vast Nuvo collection and you've probably got a colour of glitter that matches either of the turquoise colours that you've used. Bring a strip of adhesive into there and add some glitter onto those. I might even do that. because I'm going to finish these off camera and then come back, I might actually do something like that as well. So that might be a nice way of finishing this one off. Then perhaps maybe a small sentiment that follows this kind of angle for the sentiment, or we could do something that cuts across the angles of the card and maybe have a banner coming in from this direction with our sentiment on as well. I might actually stick all of the panels down and then come back and show you how I'm adding the sentiments as well and the thought process behind that. That might be a bit more helpful for you. But that's where we'll leave that one for now, because the next one is the one where I think we're going to have a little bit more difficulty with sticking them down. So my idea is, this is tons of the smallest little trapezium here. This was actually a mixture of sizes on this one. I went mostly for the smaller ones, but where I had just die cut a bunch of bits and pieces, we could have used any size, you know, to fill in those other little gaps or ones that fall off the edge of the card. But the ones that I knew that were going to be mostly on the card, I made sure they were the smallest little trapeziums, so they're not taking up too much of the card. However, if you make larger cards, then go for the larger ones because you'll cover more surface area quickly. But this one, I wanted to do some kind of like fanned out starburst kind of effect with them, where you're lining each one back up with the points, but you're fanning them out as you go and getting an equal distance all the way around. And then I was thinking of placing it more on like half the card, or maybe sort of like this and 2/3 onto the card, but I'm not sure. It's kind of difficult to get an actual representation of what that's going to look like without sticking it down first. So I'm thinking of trying to stick it down off the card panel rather than sticking it onto the card panel and then not liking the placement. I'm thinking of starting off the card. So I'm going to go with the pattern green, light turquoise, dark turquoise as my pattern around this card. And I know that I want everything to meet at this point here. It might look a little bit different as we come back round again, because I think these ones are going to end up more like trying to overlap the first ones. But for now, we want to put glue on this portion here, so that when we add them together, we're sticking those two longer points where the angle comes outwards on the longest side of the trapezium. So we're going to stick those so they line up, and then I want to leave a little V here. So if I zoom you in a little bit more, you can see there, I've stuck them both together, but I've left a little V between them up there, and you can see they've gone together right at that point. So then we're going to take the next one, put a little bit of glue again in that corner, stick it together right at that point, but then when we move it round here, we're looking to match that kind of V. It doesn't matter if it's not 100% perfect, but to make it more of a uniform pattern going round, we're just trying to match that kind of V that we're leaving between them as we stick them together. So we've gone green, light turquoise, dark turquoise. I want to go back to green again, and then put this one on like so, and look for that V kind of design that's there as well. Once this portion is firmly held in place, we can always lift these back up and add a little bit more adhesive underneath, or we might find that we want to add foam tape onto the end of them so they raise up a little bit on the card as well. But for now, if we secure everything in that corner, we'll be able to place it onto our card and decide if we like where it is and everything. So this bottom corner again, it's always the same corner we're adding that adhesive onto. Then we line it right up there and then look back to the top to see that V shape. That's that one. Then back to the dark turquoise again and lining up right here and getting that V shape. Okay, I'll speed the rest of this up so you're not listening to me say exactly the same thing over and over again. So I've got to this point and I have one die cut left that I would, be willing to use within the pattern. So we've got to decide how we're going to add this to the card. Do we want to add it like this? If we bring the next die cut in, would that make it look a little bit better, more complete maybe? Maybe if we test where that's going to go, that would then meet the exact side of the card and just leave that little triangle there. So that might look actually quite nice. I do like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I was thinking we could even like just shift it all the way off the edge of the card, and you could just have this sort of fan design coming in from the side, or you could twist it and have that fan design coming in from the bottom as well. That would give a really lovely look, and in that case you would need less die cuts. You could stop at this one. You'd need 4 less die cuts than I'm going to use. So actually you might still need this one. So you'd need 3, 6, 9 to do that half circle design. But in this case we're actually using 12 because I do want to stick that last one onto there as well. Again, just on that corner, and then leaving the little triangle. I do really like how that looks, having it on the card like so, and having that so it's just right on the edge of the card. I think that looks really nice like that. And then we can have our sentiment across the centre to make this white piece not look so out of place. The sentiment can kind of come across here and sort of hide maybe this slightly awkward looking area. We can have our sentiment just coming across that section perhaps. So I'm going to stick the rest of these onto the card panels, die cut everything I need for sentiments and stamp things out, and then I'll be back in 1 second to show you how I'm going to finish off all of these cards and explain how I've stuck anything down with 3-dimensional adhesive or anything. Okay, so I've got to the point where practically all of the panels are finished. This one I have completely finished already. This was the one that I arranged and it kind of looked like a letter G. I think I've done it upside down now, but that was the sort of letter G kind of shape in there. And I did just add this extra one on and this extra one on, I think, from what we decided when I was showing you earlier. But I just finished this one off with some of the dies from the set because I thought, well, we've got that Be Happy sentiment in there, so we might as well actually use that in its little trapezium shape and add Be Happy as the sentiment. And then obviously because we've put Be Happy, we need some bees on there to go with the theme. So I've just cut the main body out of white, coloured in the head and the outside here with one of the black alcohol pens from Nuvo. And then I've just used 2 backing pieces from red and then 1 backing piece from the pink to go behind them. I just thought that makes them stand out quite nicely having the black, and then I thought because I've put the black on there I kind of want to balance that black by having like some black stamping on there. So for all of the sentiments on these cards I've gone for the little Simply Sentiments A6 stamp set from Tonic that's just got some generic kind of ones, and I think there are some that are supposed to go with a die set that came out as well with some words in too, so you can actually use it in conjunction with some dies, which is really nice. But there are some, or most of them, that you can use individually, which is nice. So I've just done just to say Be Happy. I thought that's quite a nice little sentiment on there, and I really like that random background, all of them butt up against each other at that angle at the end of the trapezium, except for this pink one. I did just add that over the top because I wanted it to come in further, but all of the other ones are butted up against each other. It's just that pink one that's laid over the top of the end of this one. But I really like that one. I think that's turned out quite nicely. You could add a couple more bees on there if you wanted to. You could do some like faux stitching around some of these shapes, or if they're patterned, you know, it would make it look a little bit busier as well. But that's that one. Then this one I haven't stuck the sentiment on yet because I was going to show you how you can like turn the card and change the kind of theme of it. I'm thinking for me I would want to do it like this, and I've actually put these panels on with different heights of foam tape. So this is flat, this is 1mm, and this is 2mm, just to make it look a little bit different, and then it goes back 1mm and then flat again. And I'm thinking I want to put You're the Best just there, but you could flip this to be a different angle. You could put You're the Best straight. You could have it going down the same angle of the card. You could bring everything coming in from the top of the card rather than up from the bottom of the card and do it this way. Or you could move it over here. You can have it up this way and have it going upwards or going straight across, maybe up there or down here. Either way, you could also have it in the white space rather than over the top of these. If these are patterned, you might want to put it in the white space rather than over the top. But I think visually I quite like it being up this way, coming from the bottom, and then having this sentiment on it there. So that's where I'm going to stick that on that one. Then this is our gorgeous fanned out card. I really do like how this turned out, and I'm thinking I'm going to put the sentiment here just because I like the way it covers that slightly awkward kind of bit there, and I think having the little angle on here, I just cut that by hand, but I tried to get it a similar angle to the end of the trapezium. And I just thought that would look quite nice there, but this design I think works in different orientations as well, so if you put something else to cover that up, or if you had put this just straight up to here so you didn't see that piece, or if you, even if you don't mind that piece there, you could have the sentiment coming in from the side and having that pattern that way. You could also have maybe cut the banner for this on the opposite side and have the sentiment coming in from that direction. Or it also looks really nice having it coming up from the bottom. Maybe this in orange, red and yellow could be like a really cool sunset kind of design, or it could even be like the mane of a lion or something. Or you could do it in rainbow colours and it can be a different configuration of a rainbow. You've got the arch of the rainbow, but all of the pieces in it would give you the colours rather than it following the archway as well. And I think the sentiment coming in from any sort of angle off to the side would look nice for that. But for me, I'm going to finish it off like so. And I think this makes a really nice masculine card as well. And that's literally just using the one trapezium die, the smallest one from the die set, plus a stamped sentiment. And you've got a really simple and easy masculine card there. So that's that one. Then for this one, I've got this Chase Your Dreams die, which is, I can give you the proper name of it, it's called Foliage, Frames and Inspiring Sentiments, and this is the hexagon die set. I haven't used these properly in their entirety yet, but I've used the words out of them quite a few times. There's 3 of them in the set, and there's really gorgeous, large, inspiring kind of quotes in them. So I'm thinking for this, I've cut it twice from white and then once from that darker blue teal colour, and then I've also put a little scrap behind that little aperture there to bring in the lighter teal colour. And then this is the one with all of the trapeziums going up and down, and I've stuck the pink ones with a 1mm foam tape and the red ones with a 2mm, and you can see there the difference that kind of makes. The higher profile foam tape you use, the more of a shadow it's going to cast on the card, so you can get a different kind of look that way as well, and I quite like mixing things as well. And because this is a large sentiment, I've got 2 more raised up ones here that I can actually bridge the sentiment between, and I think it looks nice just like that, just with that sentiment on, but it's also quite nice to pair these kind of sentiments with something stamped as well. So I was thinking maybe something like this, doing You're So Amazing, Chase Your Dreams, or you could put it down the bottom, Chase Your Dreams, You're So Amazing. Actually, I think I like that better. Yeah, I think I might do it that way around actually. Yeah, so you can sort of lay your sentiment out whichever way you want, but I left this unstuck because I thought that way looks really nice as well, and the sentiment would still work nicely in the centre. Maybe you would want to use the bubble that comes with it and cut it out of vellum just to help it stand out a little bit more. This direction it seems to get lost a little bit more than the other direction, I think. I don't know what you think, but I feel like it gets lost a little bit more because you've got the vertical lines. The horizontal lines kind of look like a rule. You know, on a page, it kind of works better that way, but you can definitely use the bubble behind it to make it stand out more, or you could put it more over to one side so you're not covering where this dips down. You could also do it up this way if you'd rather have your sentiment more towards the bottom of the card. We could even do the You're So Amazing, Chase Your Dreams that way up actually as well. Maybe I prefer it that way. I do quite like it like that. Let's put it back up this way again and see what we think. I think like that. I like it that way. I quite like here you can got the chase and you can like put it along this red line here, and then Your is over the pink and then Dream just overlaps both of them. I quite like it like that. Okay, so we're going to leave that one like that. And then the final one, where I said you could add some glitter onto here. The original way up was this way. I was going to have it like this, and I've put a 6mm and a 3mm strip of red liner tape, and then I have used some Pure Sheen Ice White glitter on there. I don't think they sell this one anymore, but any sort of white glitter works perfectly, or if you do have the exact match for a couple of these colours, you could definitely bring that in as well. I did have a turquoise colour, however, I feel like because these are really solid colours, it would have needed to be a solid turquoise, whereas it had an interference in it rather than just being a solid colour. But you can definitely bring in whatever colour glitter you would want to that would match any of the cardstock that you've used. And this one can go all sorts of different directions as well, which is nice. So originally I was thinking like this as a design, but I feel like it's too empty. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to twist it. So I think I twisted it this way first. Okay, it still doesn't look quite how I imagined it to be. So then I was like twisting it again, and then that kind of makes it too heavy on the top of the card. Although it doesn't look too bad like that actually. But I think the way that I had decided was like this. So you've got all of that pattern up there, and then you're coming down to having the sentiment sort of standing out in that white area. I think I like it like that. I mean, you really can go whichever direction you want to with this one. You could even have it coming in diagonally on one of those as well. It doesn't have to just be straight either. So that's kind of quite nice, having it over the top like that. Or like that. I don't like it that way up, I don't think. I feel like this is a nice sort of, yeah, I think that's the nicest kind of orientation to have it, I think. You can definitely like change it around if you preferred one of the other orientations that I showed, but I think I'm going to put mine there for that one. So I'll just stick all of these down and then I'll come back again. Okay, so there we have our 5 really simple pattern building kind of cards using just the isosceles trapezium shapes from the Buzzing Beehive House Showcase number 34 die set. And don't forget that you can use any of your scraps that you have, any of your patterned papers, things that you've jelly printed, bits and pieces that you've stamped maybe things that you're not as keen on and you feel like cutting them up would make them look better, pieces of embossed card, your specialty cardstock from Tonic, maybe bringing in a whole colour scheme. If you're not sure what to kind of use as a colour, go for one of the colour trends that Tonic do and pick out, you know, a sheet of each of the cardstocks that they bring out in the Craft Perfect part of the colour trend. And also, don't just think that you have to use the trapeziums from this new die set. You can use any shape that you can find in any of your die sets. All of Tonic die sets have panels to decorate with, so there's always tons of different shapes that you can use. I just thought this trapezium was a little bit of a different kind of shape. I often cut my own rectangles or squares or things to use to create backgrounds, but I feel like a trapezium is a little bit different, and it kind of gives a different sort of feel to your cards, and also it's a really nice way of creating more masculine looking cards as well, especially with these like block colours. It makes it really simple, but it's quite fun to do because you can sort of build up different patterns and bring in different colour schemes and things that you might not have tried before, or it kind of makes you feel more accomplished for actually getting through some of the scraps that are in your scrap box as well. I picked out all of these pieces from my scrap box and I was hunting for little scraps of different colours because I just needed like one more green die cut or something. So it's quite a nice way to use up all of your scraps as well. So really hope you enjoyed this tutorial video. If you are interested in getting hold of Tonic Showcase number 34, which is the dies that I've used for this collection of cards, then there will be affiliate links in the description box below the video. And if you want to see that showcase in more detail and see exactly what it is designed to make, then do check out my up close video, which will have gone up yesterday on my channel as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!